Folks, we are live. Welcome to Gamers Health. I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. There's some people that are upset that I refer to myself as the bartender in the OSR.
Oh, somebody had a little,
No, it has nothing to do with
some little
the.
something to say about being the bartender.
Yeah, you think you're the bartender.
Just
Yeah.
because you say you're the bartender doesn't
Well,
mean yada
yeah,
yada.
well, well,
I don't know what it was, but
if you're
it was some ignorant bullshit.
yeah, if you're the bartender, then I guess I can throw you out.
Yeah, yeah, you could
Oh,
cut them off.
cut them off. No more drinks. No more drinks for you.
No more involvement in gaming for you.
So this is obviously Rachel, my lovely
Hello.
wife. So I see Theatus has already commented on our topic for later.
Yeah,
If you're coming from a religious point of view,
most definitely.
most definitely. If you're coming from
Like a self-help 12-step, I
point of
guess,
view,
point of
Rach,
view.
Rach has a different
Like
perspective.
the amends is,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
or similar, but
Yeah.
just I guess each house has its own.
Thank you, Jen. Sending hugs to you both after this is a week of special guests you had.
Thank
Whoa.
you.
And Rach is always a part of this, whether she's with me on screen or with me behind screen or just with me in spirit, being my support when I'm trying to do some of this stuff and
Yeah, I
get it
wasn't
together.
around much to experience Jared, but
Yeah.
um,
No, Ken.
Ken, I was curious about because of this desire to make amends, which he couldn't quite verbalize, and I was left very confused.
I think Ken was very confused, but that's just me. So, I guess we'll do our usual recap of the last week. Highlight is I guess either I'm adjusting to the return of a medicine, or I've been fighting a bug.
Oh god.
I'm not going to go into details, but we still got a bathroom we got to clean. That's I'll leave it at that,
Sure.
Rach. Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, it was I guess was it Wednesday night? I guess it was maybe Wednesday. Wednesday night, before going to bed, I had a little bit of a tickle in my throat. So might have been coming down with something. Had two doctor's visits this week. My endocrinologist. Uh, Blood pressure is great, and everything is fine. Oh, was that last week? I only had one doctor. It was only one doctor's visit this week.
Yeah, I had Monday and then
You
you
had
had
Monday.
Thursday.
You had Monday. That's right. Rachel had the pre-op
Mm-hmm.
for her surgery coming up in
On the 25th.
2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a
It's
blood
very
draw.
minor.
And I had a blood draw, and I was surprised that the vampires at the doctor's office were able to get blood out of this arm.
They were good
They were good
bloodletters.
bloodletters, very nice, very good, very much in line. So, but this was a week where essentially, to some extent, like I was slowed down. I was like, okay, I guess I got to stick relatively close to home, and then you kind of felt it out. But we also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we came back from the Poconos with Glenn. My shortly thereafter, my app called Kilby for the Guardian said, "We've detected an issue with your water pump. A new water pump is being
Do you want to put the
dispatched."
picture up of the Gardein?
So yes, actually, I got that right. I was getting stuff ready. So
Okay.
we had already we had already done a big cleaning of the Guardian. We removed all the plants, some of the plants. The peppers plant was still producing a year later, but we had an aphid problem, so we did a full cleaning. We did a strip down. We did a lot of work. Rach was aces on all that stuff. So now we replanted stuff, and right after we replanted stuff, the pump started working, stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to like manually guarding for about a week.
Week.
So,
Okay, so
so
that's
as to what? No, so this
a
is
couple of plants.
this is
This is the garden itself. The
right.
garden. They say garden
Yeah, but I
with a
say
Y.
yes. I say Gardine, not because I'm pompous like that. So there are actually 30 pods that you can plant. Now you're going to see that in a few places there's this white cap, and the reason why there's this white cap is because the yesterday Rach was on the floor with this thing on the plants taken out of it.
So you lay it on its
They can't see it.
yeah.
Yeah, they can't see us right now. They can only see the
Yeah.
Guardians.
Oh, so yeah, that those white poles, you take that top off, which the poles are attached to, along with those lights, and you lay it down, and so this way you can get under there and
Underneath the bottom of the platform that it sits on.
yeah. So we had to do that, and so I was down there like laying down, like unscrewing um
She was a literal plumber.
the
She was a
stuff and
she,
uh detaching the tubes and
and
getting
the
the electrical
connector.
to
Yeah,
connect.
yeah. So Rach did a great job.
Yeah, it was cool to do. And it was like the instructions were really clear and really nice.
Right, and
We had a video,
it was covered under warranty, which was really sweet.
but we were worried that our sensor was
On the fritz too.
finished. The sensor tells you how much water is inside the reservoir there. I don't know if you can see it. It's a big white. Oh yeah, you can. I think it's a
What?
big the reservoir underneath the
They
wooden
really can't.
platform. Oh
Nah.
okay.
So underneath the
Oh,
wooden
that's
plant.
the
Yeah, that's
the
the
guys.
yeah.
Okay.
So you can't. But there's a
So
five
that's the
gallon reservoir.
nursery. I'm sorry, I keep pointing at it thinking you can see me.
Yeah.
So that little tray at the bottom is the nursery for those plants that were in it but now have the white cap
Right.
because they need help to like they need more time to develop their root systems
Yes.
in order to go back into the poles.
So we have like this is one of the plants that one of the 24 pods that are still on it right now.
Which ones?
This is the red cherry tomatoes. So
Oh,
now the next step that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to thin because some plants only want one plant in a pod, some will take three. Some like the chives and the bunching onions will allow you to keep them all there. So that so today is when we added fertilizer for the first time to the remaining plants.
mm-hmm.
Half dose essentially or half strength because they're seedlings. But again, the AI when your phone's telling you what to do, Kelby has detected that over 2/3 of your
We love
pods.
Kelby.
So it's really cool. And again, the replacement was a stronger pump than its predecessor. So we got a year out of this pump, and that is
Oh, I
a good
forgot the
sign.
punchline when I was talking there a minute ago. Now the sensor is working again since
Oh
we,
yes. So
took care of
we
the
were worried
motor
about
for
that.
and the pump.
I
Yeah.
think they're interconnected, so we were
Mhm.
getting intermittent with the water sensor, and sometimes it wouldn't read anything at all. And I was like, that was right before with the pump failed, so
Mm.
we gave it another wipe down and kind of a short prayer, and lo and behold, 10 minutes later, after getting this thing up and running, 5 gallons detected. Today it was four
Mhm.
gallons. So that told
Because we
me.
had just been talking about, oh, why don't we put the fertilizer in when it goes down to 4 gallons? This way we can have better uh, dilution
Yes.
of the fertilizer.
All right. So okay, this doesn't work. Hold on. I got it. I had it going all the way, and then we got to be on the side here.
Mm.
I don't want my. I don't need my wife hidden behind the chat. Flint, welcome. Paul, welcome. So I mean, the Guardian was a lot of what this week was. Again, like I said, next step is thinning. So we before Rach and I could install the water pump, we had to take all the plants out individually, and every plant is in the location that it's supposed to be in. Some
Like they
plant,
have certain prescribed light exposure.
yeah,
So you want them certain,
you
each
got
plant needs to be at a certain place on the poles
yes.
um in order to thrive. So
It,
you
it,
have to be sure where, so we take it out and we set it up in line to be able to
right to
put
put it
back
back in
easy.
order. So that was it was
Oh,
interesting.
we're trying a new recipe.
Oh yes,
I made some overnight oats. But Eric had this chocolate cheesecake like protein powder.
which by the way, it's natural ingredients. I was very happy and surprised by that.
Yeah, and yeah, so we mixed that up with the water that it calls for, and then the yogurt and the rolled oats and
Chia
some chia
seeds.
seeds to make it creamy. And we also have like some not raspberries but blueberries, so that this way we can just take them out, and like they're in the freezer, so we just take them out, let them warm up, and to room temperature, and rinse them, and we'll stick those in there too. So it'll be a chocolate blueberry cheesecake,
Mm.
um overnight oats.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
So we're not sure whether we'll have it for breakfast or whether we'll have it for
Late
snack
night
later.
snack.
So
Well,
yeah.
and actually, now so that's something else that I want to go over too. So, if you're a regular on this channel watching this, I am a type 2 diabetic. And I've been on numerous medications and stuff, and adjusting my diet and trying to get in exercise. And if you're a diabetic, you know the struggles of being a diabetic. Okay. And uh, my now, right now, I am at 162, but we had pizza for dinner. And there's a reason why we had pizza for dinner last night. I had leftover pizza tonight. And it's because my blood sugar average for the last 7 days is 94. I don't get that to 94. For the last 7 days, I've had a number of overnight warning, Will Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
low blood sugar alerts, which I have learned to. I'm not saying I'm not giving you any kind of advice here. I've learned to go, yeah, okay, whatever, and go back to sleep, unless it goes off a second time telling me it's urgently low blood sugar. You've hit 55 or less. At which point I get my ass up and I carb up a bit. And the reason why I sleep through it is because 9 times out of 10, what happens with my body is that I will steady out. Apparently, I've been looking at the charts around 65 or so for an hour or two, and then slowly go back up. So that's safe and that's fine. But when I went to see my endocrinologist last week, my 90-day rolling average for my blood sugar was 132. Now my 90-day rolling average for my blood sugar is 124, a drop
Hmm.
of 8 points. And now the 90-day is where they get your A1C. That's where they
Yes,
test your blood.
it's cumulative.
Your blood is looking at your blood glucose level for the last 90 days, essentially. So I'm doing this without injectables, which is great. But God, I still gotta lose weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, losing weight means watching what you eat. But last night I was like, Rach, I don't want to be up all night with low blood sugar. I don't want this thing going off all night. And Rach was in the mood for pizza. We were gonna do a homemade low carb pizza, but this was quicker. And a low carb pizza probably wouldn't have done me very well. It's strange that my body is dealing. Maybe my body is healing. Maybe my metabolism is getting to the point like last night. And I don't again.
Or maybe because your medication changed, it might be interacting like
maybe a little
maybe
bit.
the wine like that you have like
Uh,
before
bed,
bed. Now, not directly before bed, but
but my
you
blood
know,
sugar goes off during the day
no, I know that. But yeah,
for
I
low
don't
blood
know.
sugar. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting, and I
So I
thought
just know that alcohol like
Ken red blood well
will
the
generally reduce your
not not most
sugar.
alcohol. If I have beer, it goes right up.
No, I mean after that spike.
No, but wine doesn't spike me at all. Red wine doesn't
No,
tend to
that
spike
won't spike you. Whiskey won't spike you, but you will have low blood
sugar
sugar.
afterwards. No, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but there's something like last night I didn't take my Januvia. I just took everything else but the Januvia, and my blood sugar
Was fine.
was fine.
Okay.
So now I wouldn't want to not take my Farziga because my Farziga is like a trifecta,
Yes, for the heart too.
and for the kidneys.
Okay.
So the sort of you know when you can get a medication that addresses numerous things, that's a home run. And yes, Flint, it does sound delicious. I got to say, we tried the chocolate cheesecake as a like as a smoothie, as like a shake, uh, and it was damn good. I actually was thinking, man, this would be even better with like a little crushed ice to get it down to like that really frozen
Oh yeah.
temperature.
Hmm.
It was very satisfying, and um, it was oh God, thickened with what's that natural stuff?
Something.
Xanthan gum, yes. Which reminds me, Rach, after the live stream, I got to take
Oh, your medicine.
my medicine, which is actually
Your drinkable.
largely xanthan gum.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Never would have guessed. Never would have guessed.
Mm-hmm.
So, but otherwise, our week was it was busy but good.
Mm-hmm.
And Rach is getting me to do different exercises. It was an experience today because I'm realizing that I do have limitations, and these are limit.
Some limitations may not improve, but
Right? No, I know.
a lot of them can.
Hmm.
You just need to
It's
start at a certain place and be consistent.
right, but I have limitations that I was diagnosed with because
Right, you're
of
not going to be able to like have your arm go
no. Oh,
around your,
just watching you do that makes me nauseous.
you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, because
But yeah,
I
that
have
like
stenosis because of radiation.
right.
So there's muscle that is probably very scarred and is never going to
Yeah, there's a lot of scar
unspur.
tissue there.
So
And so yeah, that you may never do, but you might end up getting more range of
oh
motion,
no, that's certainly.
like in your
But
shoulder. And it's also about too, like, being consistent helps you also keep, you're not you can keep, it's
keep
important to keep
the
what
mobility you have.
mobility you have,
Yes.
and you know being able to strengthen the muscles as we get older, makes it so that we have less of a fall risk. So, you know um being able to exercise the muscles that you walk with, which is your whole body essentially.
Right.
Your the muscles in your trunk, like your abdominals, your core, which includes your butt too. And your quads. That's important
Mhm.
to strengthen. So there's a lot, you know
No,
that we need to do to maintain, you know
certainly.
what we have, because it's going to be very painful if we lose that, and interfere with like activities of daily living, like, getting up and down the stairs with your laundry, or things like that. um some of the simple things that we take for granted and that we look at as a pain in the ass, but then,
You can't do
when you
it.
can't do it, you're like, oh, this is even more of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So just Yeah, it's that way, and then like as you stay doing some of these stretches, you will gain more
No, and
and
I
you'll be more comfortable.
I understand it, Rach, but
I'm just saying.
it was emotional for me because although I'll talk about there's limitations to what I can do, and I know my limitations. Actually, getting up and engaging and accepting those limitations was emotional for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like being like smacked in the face and say like, "Wake up! This is where you're at." You're like, So Flint just says, "I'll just stop doing laundry." Listen,
I wish.
I'll just order new clothes on the Amazon. I wear my clothes until they fall apart, and then I'll just get new ones. So
Yeah, the laundry just popped into my head because over the summer I had the knee issues, and I still have arthritis,
right.
in both of them, but I'm able to do I'm able to get the laundry up and down, and
Hmm.
you know
Parasocial, welcome. So I guess we could take our dive into the general topic.
there we go.
It's going to be a big dive. I mean, like as Jen said earlier, we had two interviews, two guests this week on this channel, and uh, neither was our normal jovial, kidding around, kibitzing type of guest. I mean, honestly, we've had it on Talking Crit on Wednesday nights where we've had guests on that we've had to critically look at their Kickstarter and say, give them the advice of, you really might just want to cancel this project and rethink it and reboot it in a couple of months' time, get a little better hand on it, which isn't advice that anybody ever wants to hear. It's not that
Mm.
jovial kibitzing we did. But in this case, this week, it was two guests that reached out to us. Jared reached out
It's
to me.
people that sounded like there was a lot of air to clear.
Yes, so Jared reached out to me the same day that Ken Whitman reached out to Don, and I was very surprised by that. What also surprised me is initially with the world of game design, Jared Nielsen, uh, that just me covering the topic had people reaching out to me. So there are interviews that will never be broadcast on this channel that were done essentially as
To get background.
to get background research, to be able to um, ask questions without just grasping around in the dark. And last weekend was very busy because of that. And I gotta give Jared credit for uh, coming on the show, and I gotta give Jared credit for listening to the advice that was given to him. It was
Mm.
unsolicited advice. He didn't have to listen, let alone take it. And he was offered to come back in 6 months for us to evaluate where he's at. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. That's just putting it out there. So with Ken, there's a lot of history with Ken Whitman. My own personal history with Ken Whitman. Many people have personal histories with Ken Whitman. When you bring up Ken's name, it is almost like saying Candyman, but you bring out people who've been harmed or scammed by Ken. One of the first things that Ken tried to explain is the reason. This is prior to the show. One of the reasons why he goes by Whitman isn't to escape his infamy as Ken Whitman. You notice I'm smiling. But
Why is that? Why
he,
does he go by
he goes
Whitman?
by Ken Whitman because apparently
He goes by Whit Whitman. You
he
say
goes
no.
Whitman because apparently there's more than one Ken Whitman involved in movies and TV stuff,
Oh,
and he's always been known as Wit, which I can see people calling him Wit if your name is Whitman.
okay.
So Whitman is a bit of a what? I understand. That is a. I'm just putting it out there. This is. I'm not giving it validity by saying this. I'm just saying this is what he said. And as I mentioned earlier on a video earlier today, Ken had very few initial requirements, and the initial requirement was no surprise guests, which is fine, right? Like you don't want to do this is your life. Ken, do you recognize this person who claims that you scammed them over? No, that's not fair, and we weren't going to do that. So that's like we're like fine, no surprise guests. And then he said, "I'll answer anything, but you might not like the answers might not be all that exciting." Well, the reason why the answers weren't all that exciting is because I personal belief when Ken really got to answers that he thought weren't going to be good ones, he would or I have holes in my memory. All right, you got holes in your memory. Okay, so you don't have records and you have holes in your memory.
Yeah.
So now Ken also came across as the I'm a horrible businessman. I'm a great creative. I'm a horrible businessman, which means nobody should give you money. You shouldn't be running Kickstarters. You shouldn't be doing anything you should be working under somebody else. You should never be the one in charge if
Yeah,
you're the
it was
horrible
just a
businessman.
very disconnected,
Yeah.
weird show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. And
I say this because my the way that I understood or what I maybe heard or
that's okay.
projected onto the situation was that this man wanted to come and make amends to the
He never said
attempt an
he wanted to
amends
apologize.
to the community.
You see,
And so you know, when he got on there, he said, "Oh, I've really been working on myself." And yes, when people are working on themselves, I've been in therapy and counseling and really doing a lot of deep looks at myself. So it made me sort of think of like, oh, okay, he's coming here to, you know, in an attempt to make amends to whatever degree that he could.
right.
And
But Rach, I told you from the start.
you were saying, oh, he has no desire to make
Right.
amends. And I was like, okay, but if he's saying that, let's
but he wasn't.
see.
You have to
And
listen to who's saying what, and it was Ken Whitman, the man who threatened to have the FBI waiting for us on our doorstep, have me arrested, was going to sue me. This guy is going to suddenly.
I'm there like, oh yeah, people can change. He's probably not going to be able to really, it's probably not a realistic idea to sort of draw your income from this community ever again. But he can certainly express his and explain, you know, how we weren't even told what he was working on in
Well,
therapy. Like I'm
I'm
working on
myself.
myself. And I'm like, well, what, they're going like, well, what does that mean? Oh, I've done some really horrible, bad things. And, oh, like, oh, I was a real shit or,
Which is generally correct, but he
and,
wasn't taking.
okay, but like, how? When you make amends and when you make an apology to somebody and you are trying to like therapeutically, spiritually, like a real way, try to work on the situation, you're going to say, here's the stuff that I did. And I acknowledge that I did these things.
Right.
Here's whether, I understand, you know, I understand they're wrong. I understand that I hurt,
And you give
and you give
specifics.
specifics about how you hurt that person.
Eh,
And you only do that, you only even start this process if, you know, like there's certain amends that you make um in yourself and expressing, and taking stock of the harm that maybe you did to somebody else. But it's like when you work on that step of making amends, um, you want to make sure that the act, when you try to, if that act is even appropriate for the situation, if you want to make amends, you make amends when it would not be harmful to the person you're trying to make amends to, because there are certain people that we've harmed along the way that if we were to go back into their life and want to make amends, that you know it could trigger a lot of trauma and pain,
Yeah.
which it kind of did for the Blackburns, I think.
Yes. Well,
Which made me feel even worse. This
but
guy, he's coming out to try and make amends, and these people are being harmed again.
right. But again, Rach,
Mhm.
your background is different than my background. I'm used to being lied to.
What he's saying his intent is
It's
not
right.
what it
Yeah.
is,
Right.
and
I come into
yeah.
this with the background of being a cop for 20 years, being an investigator for my last 12, supervising investigators for my last 12, and being lied to my face.
I know.
Okay.
As a
No.
counselor, drug counselor,
Yeah.
yes,
So,
we get that.
oh, Jen, what came across to me was the ego was talking. No amends were done. And exactly.
No, it was
He,
exactly that. Who is that? Is
that's
that
Jen.
Jen?
Phantom Jen.
Oh, yeah. It was all just like diverting, like
Blame.
blame and hiding behind, because like when he was there, like he's like, I hit bottom. And I was like, oh wow, what was bottom like for you? you
I
know
was, I'm 6 foot
I'm like,
four. I
I
hit
really want to
bottom.
know what is bottom for you, and how did you hit bottom? Like when you hit bottom, it's usually like that. I violated my own values and I did horrible
Well,
things or whatever it is.
yeah.
Like what was hitting bottom for you, and what was that for you? So he couldn't explain it. He
No.
couldn't explain. And he wouldn't explain, like you know like when you make amends, it's like you explain, like it's like, yes, I did this wrong, you list your behaviors, and you talk about the character defects that you have and that you're working on, obviously. um but you talk about those defects and how they contributed to your behavior,
Yep.
so that the person knows
Right. I mean,
where these things come from.
there are a few things that stick out to me. Is that he was happy to acknowledge the fact that yes, he raised X number of dollars and didn't fulfill, but I'm gonna fulfill. But what tells me he's so full of
I'm
so
just amazed that you can just sit there and say, like, how many years on is it? Is it 10 years on
yeah,
already?
10 years.
Like 10 years on.
He has no
Um,
my son has lost total track of. He knows we do these live streams. He knows it.
she's just being annoying.
Yes.
Hi, Chris. We love
Chris,
you.
pick up the game. Look on your computer if you want to see us, young
We
man.
love you.
But the
But
thing.
yeah, like what my issue is, like
What?
he could never say what it was, and then like we're 10 years on and he's still saying, oh, I'm gonna meet every single one of those. It was like,
Yeah.
to yourself.
So now put things in perspective. Okay, Marcus King. Marcus was someone who said that Ken saved his life. So Ken could have killed the Pope. Marcus would still say that Ken is the best thing in the world. He basically said that. I don't
Okay.
care what Ken did. Doesn't make a difference. Ken's awesome. So
Right. We're not in their relationship.
right.
And,
But so when Marcus was alive, Marcus allowed Ken to
oh, he's
sleep.
passed away now.
Marcus passed away.
Oh.
Marcus let him stay at his store. Yes, that Marcus King. So yes, Don. And by the way, welcome. And Killer Carl Krupp Okay, sorry, that is fine for spilled juice, not for a major wrongdoing. You're right. And Don says Marcus was just like Ken. That was my perspective too. But Marcus did something. Marcus bought Ken a pencil embosser, and he bought him blank pencils and said to him, Ken, this is essentially the easiest of your obligations to get out from under. Complete one. So now Ken took on cranking out pencils. Now, I couldn't tell you how much effort it takes to embose a pencil. I don't care. All right. I am assuming it's an activity that you can do while streaming on your TV over there and crank
Just
out,
listening to music.
listening to music, crank out 50 pencils in an hour. We'll say it takes a minute a pencil, whatever. But you would think if you're going to fulfill backers, right? You're going to fulfill your obligations. You would go, backer number one gets their pencils first. That's not how it went. Ken went through the orders and said, everybody who has one pencil will get theirs first. So he could claim
We're talking about number two
pencils,
pencils.
yes. So he could
Oh,
claim,
not some
no, no,
mechanical.
no, no, no. These are number two pencils have six sides. And
Yeah.
he had each side
Oh,
numbered
okay.
one to six. So they were pencil die.
Mm.
With it, Don, I looked it up. With the most basic embosser, a 12-year-old can embose a few hundred in an afternoon easy. Well, Ken and Shadow, welcome. What Ken was doing is he was fulfilling the easy amount ones first, so he could claim, oh, I fulfilled 20% of backers. Yeah, you fulfilled everybody who wanted one, and you got rid of that. But everybody who wanted something substantial, and then he got bored or got tired of it or whatever, because then the update stopped and people stopped getting their pencils. And he had two pencil Kickstarters, by the way. So, and Ken admitted he didn't keep an accounting of the money. All these monies for all these Kickstarters went to one general fund.
I just kept waiting for like, oh, where did all the money go? And like he would not explain where the where this money went. It's
Yeah,
like and like it could be vague. It's up in smoke. Like it.
yeah,
Yeah, that money fed my addiction or
right. But
fed whatever, and it doesn't even have to be that he was addicted to drugs, alcohol. It could just be that he was addicted to like fast life, fast money,
right. He was
like that kind of thing. And you know, had he been a little more forthright about what he was going through and what he was doing,
right.
and where his character took him,
So, Shadow,
that might have been better.
we're not talking about politics. We're talking in specific about Ken Whitman, but that is a general statement that goes across the people too. And
What is
that,
it?
no, we're talking about making amends.
Oh yes.
So, um, now with Ken, I found a few things that were extremely interesting that I don't think. And Ken, if you're watching this, I'm sure you are, or you will be. When you admitted that you are still creating games because you're a game creator, and God bless you for being one.
That's just the calling, I guess.
That's fine. Um, and yet you haven't put anything out, which means that you know that you are toxic. Becoming Whitman is as much about getting yourself seen in the movie industry as it is avoiding the hobby industry here of RPGs because your name is infamous. And there's nobody's doing it on that but your own. The only difference is that today, in today's reality, you have the ability to have websites and videos and blogs and forums and conversations to keep people well known. Welcome, by the way, Tammy. Don says with Ken, it was very simple. He saw money and he stole it, period. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, Don, because the period when this happened, he was not the only one doing this. And I don't believe, even in Ken's state, and I'm sure people are going to tell me I'm wrong, that he went into this with the idea of a grift. I don't think that he went into it that way. Although completing some of
He
his
learned, and that's
uh,
part of where it
well,
took off from.
at during this time frame when Kickstarter was becoming really popular, there were a number of Kickstarter creators that did not understand the business side of things. So, Joshua Frost, a name that most of you will not know of, he created Pathfinder content. He created a Kickstarter, and it funded Quantum RPG. It funded, and with the money that it funded with, he didn't create the game. He created a company. He created a business. He hired a receptionist because this is what people believe that you did, that this money was not being invested in them for a gain, it was being invested in them to make a
Even though the
living.
people thought they were
A
getting a
game.
game from there.
So
Oh,
then
that's very different.
so then Joshua saw that there was a money flow issue. So he kickstarted a supplement for the game that wasn't even released. And
Nice.
nobody would back it. And then he had to come out and admit that what he was doing was is he didn't understand business. Tom,
Okay.
welcome. So another person. Now this name might be recognizable for many of you. Mike Neistel.
Oh yeah.
Mike Neistel, who claims to be the one that Neistel's magic aura, the spell that makes a copper coin look illusionary like a gold coin. He claims that spell is named after him, and it certainly might be because Mike was the poster boy for failed funded Kickstarters, meaning the Kickstarters that funded but never produced. So, what did he do with his Kickstarter money? Well, again, he created a company and he funded a dwarf convention, a fantasy dwarf convention that really did nothing.
So what are
Uh,
you trying to say? Like that they get this money and then
and
they're like, oh well,
it's
game
my.
ain't happening now. So
Well, here's the thing. And there's a reason why even people like uh, Ernie Gygax and Benoit, their project, Memorial Tomb, was very ambitious. And the amount of material needed to complete it was likely beyond
mm,
their realistic capabilities. But Ernie put that money in a business account in escrow, and they only spent the money as it was needed to further the production of the product. So
that's good.
When
That sounds
Troll
really
Lord
good.
Games came in years later to save it, because I had talked to businessmen in the industry, because there was talk that they were looking for somebody to save the Memorial Tomb, and many of them said it's going to cost $30,000 to $40,000 just to get this out the door.
Oh
It's going to
wow.
be a money loss. Well, here's the difference with Troll Lord Games. Troll Lord Games said, "Wow, there's money left in the account." This is me reading between the lines. Troll Lord Games is we have our own publishing press, so we our own printing press. So we can print this at minimal cost. We don't have to farm it out, and it can cost us man hours, but we can put man hours into it. It's not going to necessarily be money out of our pockets, and the money that were there were enough to complete it. That's not going to happen with any of Ken's stuff. Okay, and Ken,
And there's no escrow account.
there's no escrow account. There's no money. Ken said he paid himself or made 18,000 a year. Well, here's the reality: Kickstarters aren't meant to give you a salary. They're meant to
Mm-hmm.
put out a product. If you make a profit from the product, awesome. If you don't make a profit from the product, I'm sorry. So
Oh, so
Ken
this guy, he was drawing a salary from these
starters,
Kickstarters.
and here's the thing too.
Yeah.
Ken had three of his Kickstarters were for
Mm.
all that money was intermingled. It was the same equipment that was being used on one was being used on the other. So his numbers, he was quick to throw out numbers of how he was losing money, but failing to account for the fact that his three Kickstarters had a lot of synergy, right? Also, the pencil dice and such were never produced. They weren't not produced because the cost of the Kickstarter to finish was greater than the money that it raised. No, they didn't finish because he used the monies from those Kickstarters for the film production.
Mm.
All right, that's me speaking as an investigator, following what looks to be the way things went. I'm sure Ken would probably say he has holes in his memory and can't remember exactly. That is fun and great. Tom, Dwarf Convention. What is this? A Howard Stern show? Yeah, it was a dwarven fantasy convention because he had a dwarven RPG that he put together, or was
This
claiming he
nice
was
little fella.
Nystal.
Mm.
Nystal, in the end, made a public statement, by the way. And he said, I am a horrible businessman, and nobody in their right mind should ever invest money in me again. Now, Ken claims he was homeless for 2 years. I think Mike was couch surfing his friends' couches for just as long, if not longer.
Right.
Mike became a stand up comedian. Now he's trying to get back into gaming. Ken has 12 games. They are, or 12 games plus. They aren't published. You can damn well be sure that his appearing with Don and Tom and myself was an attempt to whitewash, but there
Right.
was no penance. There was
It
there
was
was
just glossing over what he thinks people want to
here.
hear,
Yep.
and like, oh, but he could never ever, he never could ever tell us what the truth of the situations were,
Right.
and account for his own behavior,
Right.
you know, and take responsibility for the
No,
things that he
not
did.
that's definitely not part of it. Don, Kickstarters are not for making money; they are for launching games. Exactly. They're
Yeah.
to get you started. Um, Tom, there is wiggle room to use Kickstarter as a Ponzi scheme, and clearly some people have used it thus.
Yeah.
The reason why, and this is not, this is as my son used to say, this is no bullshit. The reason why Kickstarter does not allow you to stack Kickstarters like you used to. People used to run Kickstarter after Kickstarter after Kickstarter without fulfilling it.
That is crazy.
Um, that's how Ken got six out there. Um, Ken is the reason why Kickstarter stopped doing it. Mike Neistel to a point, but I think Ken kicked that can down the road so far that they were like, our reputation is at risk. So now
Hmm.
I know Ken claims that he can launch a Kickstarter whenever he wants. He
Congratulations.
certainly has the unliving, the un something or other with the ex wrestler.
Mm.
He had a that he kickstarted. Now Ken's not on the tin anywhere, but if you look it up on IMDb, Ken wrote the script and he directed it.
Oh, okay.
And the people involved in it were like, no, Ken taught, because they were asked by people I know, and they were evasive as to what Ken's involvement was and how they were getting paid. But neither here nor there. The fact is, yes, I'm sure Ken can launch a Kickstarter, not as D20 Entertainment,
That is too much drama.
but if he does, it won't have to. It's not going to be me, Ken. I don't care. But there are a number of individuals out there that are gonna pick up their cell phone.
Yeah, I think it's done. You know,
Yeah,
it's
they're
just.
gonna email Kickstarter. Go, hey, you know that Ken Whitman? You know that guy? Yeah, he's starting another Kickstarter. Well, how do I
But
know?
you know, even the nice store guy, he made that statement. You know, he
And he
was,
stayed
and
at.
he acknowledged, you know, that yes, I have a psychiatric disability. You know, that
Uh huh.
impacted my ability to really have something come to fruition.
Right.
You know, and you know, he sort of gave that warning of, well, you know, don't ever
Yep.
don't
So
ever support me again in this vein. You
right,
know, and you know, so he kind of like said that and he let go.
right. He did, and he let and he.
And that was the thing. He just let go. I don't know what he's doing now, but you know, I never heard of him again. And then not that that's saying much because I'm
No,
not
I
big in
know.
here, but
Well,
Yeah, but like for Ken, it's just like he just
it's
serially just keeps coming back and doing the same
he's
insanity. It's
well,
the definition of insanity. He
it's
keeps coming
the
back doing the same thing.
it's the
The
shortcut,
results aren't any different.
right? So here, Don, Ken claims memory issues as he can claim ignorance due to medical issues, instead of having to deal with and address his nefarious actions. Ken told me after the interview in the PM that to prove a point, he can start a Kickstarter anytime he wants. He thinks it's a flex, and that tells you his mentality. Yeah, including
Yeah,
the
I mean, it doesn't. How much of a flex is it?
right,
You started, but it's not going to fund
right. To list
because.
Tom, he can, but under other people's names.
Mm-hmm.
Based means green game over. Text green game over. Yes. Uh, Tabletop Tap Room. I like how his victims kept him from working and made him homeless. Yeah,
That was his bottom.
that was my
That
bottom.
that the lady cursed him out, or not. He hasn't heard anything yet. Uh, um, but that the lady cursed him out, and then the Blackburns withdrew from him.
Right.
That was
That was
bottom.
that
It was
was
everybody else's behavior. That was his bottom.
the fact that the nights at the dinner table, that failure of the live action
Yeah, I
series,
don't
the
understand.
the fact that the party, the Gen Con party he was supposed to release party, and he was supposed to be funding, he never did. It was funded by others, but he took credit for it. The fact that um, Ken claimed that the high definition final versions of that series burned up in a barn, whether it's a fact or not, why that was never turned over in the first place. Oh, because he was using that, because he was probably using that equipment for other stuff. Now, the equipment that he bought with those Kickstarters that never got funded or never fulfilled, they got funded, they never fulfilled, was used for further purposes. It was used to further Ken's various filming debacles, which I'm not going to delve into, but I'm sure that equipment, he didn't just go, oh, well, the Kickstarters are done. I'll return the equipment. I'll sell it off to pay back the backers. No, he went on and said, this is mine. They bought it for, well, I bought it with me. Well, it's Kickstarter money, but it's my money. Everything with Ken was somebody else's fault. So, and that same message that he sent to Don, or no, a different message he sent to Don, where he, by the way, he tried to praise Tom and Don, and then say that he forgave Tenkar his ignorance. The reason why I wouldn't take his apology is because I'm not ignorant. It's because
Because
I
it's not a genuine
no,
apology.
and I've been,
Because really, again,
yeah.
for what are you sorry?
Ken, Ken, are you going to say,
How do you imagine
yeah,
we felt when that happened?
yeah, Ken, are you going to say, I am sorry that I lied about sending the FBI to your house? I'm sorry that I threatened to sue you, because you know what? When you make those threats, you're revealing more about yourself than anything else. Okay, and if you're willing to do those threats 8, 10 years ago, what's the difference now? How have you changed? How has the person that you were,
Right. We didn't hear about the character development, like and put this in something that he knows. Into the filmmaking, into the writing, and understanding what happens with somebody's character, like, right,
right?
you wouldn't you develop the character of like, oh yes, I did this, and
And now
this is what I've learned, and how wrong it was, and you know but he didn't have that. He couldn't develop his character beyond, like,
yeah.
nothing.
Um, Tom, and 12 more movies coming from him in the next year. Does anyone else think that's overly ambitious? Well, it's Ken. He's not going to accomplish
Yeah,
it, but that's
he's
okay. Tammy, for those
yeah, there's plenty going on with him, but he just was not willing to help us understand. And
Yeah.
so,
Tammy, for those of us that don't know, can you tell us what happened when Ken reported you and had the FBI sent to your house? Well, my reaction to Ken, by the way, my reaction to Ken, not my reaction to my job, which had to get notified because, especially in internal affairs, we deal with the FBI more frequently than they'd like to admit. But I told Ken, when your FBI comes to my house, I'll invite them in for imaginary tea and crumpets, and I will sit down with your imaginary FBI agents because I, knowing the person is 99% full of shit, that 1% still needs notification to my job with the he's probably full of shit, but I mocked him for it. And I still remember where I was. I was in a parking lot in the Poconos. Rach was shopping, and I'm seeing this on my phone, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!"
and again, for me, as with other people, I was like, what kind of an asshole is going to waste resources like that?
Of the FBI
Like,
for
you're going to call the FBI
what's
for
the
like, he did nothing.
what's the crime? I'm reporting on a scammer. Well, it's illegal to report on scams that are legitimate.
See, his scam was better than my scam.
Yes, yes, you can't do that.
Like, I am just so sick of tossers who,
Yeah.
just
Uh,
try to
so
report that stuff
so
and just waste the resources for people who need it, people that are like in trouble and,
so
in
my
danger.
favorite, by the way, and Ken, if you're watching this was my favorite when he hit me with the Digital Copyright Act's infringement, claiming that I was using his picture against without having rights to use it. And I explained to Ken at the time that you don't own your image. And you don't. You know who owns your image? Whoever took the photo. So the photographer of that headshot of his at the time would have had to have been the one that would hit me with a takedown of that.
Okay.
But also, on top of that, my blog is essentially a news site. What was he hoping to gain? He was hoping to intimidate me and shut me up. Reminds me of someone, doesn't it?
Yeah, another
So
tosser.
when Ken hit and he said I have filed a claim. He did all the wonderful work. So I went through my blog, and every time I had a picture of Ken, I replaced it with a piece of shit, different shit graphics, and Ken shithead Ken and all this other stuff.
Mm.
And all it did was get me more traffic on my blog because people were enjoying the fact that I replaced Ken's image with a
I
piece
didn't
of
remember
shit.
that.
Oh yeah. So I mean, Ken expecting me to take my most sincere apology. By the way, shoelaces are tied and fingers are crossed. But please accept my sincere apology as I wank off in your face. I'm not going to
Who
take it.
is that? Who wrote that?
I was me.
That was
Rach.
just you
That
saying
was
that?
just me.
Oh, it looked like you were reading it
No,
for
no, no, no.
Oh.
What do you think Ken was hoping to gain from that? Again, intimidation. Same with Don. Same with Lanasa, saying he was sending feds to your house.
Mm-hmm.
They say it. They say it is that they are impressed about how clever they are, when in fact they are idiots and they do not realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the same thing when I was getting threats and I notified threat assessments.
Yes.
I just take it and I place it in the hands of those that need it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all.
Sure.
Rach calling Ken a tosser. Love it. Proper English term used in the proper way. That was Don. Tom, what is it with these people that they think they can send the police or FBI to assuage their fragile egos? Well, here's the thing. First off, most people do not realize that the FBI is not like I can call 911 and get the FBI. It doesn't work that way.
No, you
You
have to go through like
uh,
major channels to make a report. I've had to do it.
and when you make your report, you get the. And I'm not kidding you. Something to the equivalent of, "Hello, you've reached the
Yes,
FBI
exactly.
Federal Bureau of
Maybe you
Investigation.
could file your report online at.
Your is important to us. Estimated wait time is 7 hours 9 minutes. If, however, you would like to leave a
Yeah, they
detailed
do
voice
often.
message, press 1 now, or go to
That's it.
www.fbi.gov and make your report.
Yeah, no, the phone tree when I had it, there was no option to like
Oh,
speak to anybody.
yeah, they're not 911.
No,
The
it's
vast majority of
not
investigations
immediate.
that the FBI gets, when I say vast majority, probably 90% plus, are referred by local law enforcement. So Ken called up, for example, the NYPD and said, "This guy's harassing me." Well, what's he doing? He's pointing out all my scams. Sir, yeah, go fuck yourself. Click. And you called up your local police precinct. They'd be nicer now, but 10 years ago, you probably get to go fuck yourself. Um, so, but they think they have this idea that the FBI does all this stuff. They don't. They don't. The FBI doesn't.
Right, there's magical thinking of how AI does and can do and will do.
Yeah. Tammy, how long ago was this? Why did it take them so long to come around and try to make some kind of amends? The FBI thing was probably about 9 years ago, give or take. These Kickstarters, I think, are all
Around it within like a 2 or 3 year span.
yeah.
Mm.
So they're all around there. So why is it taking him so long, Tammy? Last year, about a year and a half ago, before Jim Kitchen became a regular part of the Wednesday crew, Mike and I talked about Ken, and Mike had some honest and unkind things to say about Ken Whitman,
Sure.
and he was saying it in comparison to others, and Ken was not coming out on top. So at the end of the show, I noticed I have an email, and I have an email from Ken Whitman. And by the way, I used to refer to him as Ken Witless, but I had people get mad at me for doing that. Not because I was mocking him, but because they wanted to make sure that when people did a Google search, they could find Ken Whitman and not have to go Ken Witless.
Uh,
But in any case, I had an email, and it's like, I'd love to come on your show and answer any questions. Ken Whitman, phone number like 999, and never you fucking mind. I mean, it was a legitimate number, I'm sure. But I saw that and I reached out to Mike immediately, and I was like, Mike, Whitman wants to come on our show. He goes, why the fuck would he want to come on our show? I go, there's only one reason why he'd want to come on our show. He goes, oh, rehabilitation tour. I go, yeah, rehabilitation tour. He's looking to come back into the industry. Now, do I, on one level, I'll say that I'm flattered, Don and Tom, we should be flattered,
yeah.
that uh, Ken sees us as
That
individuals,
gateway?
the gateway, that we have a
Yeah.
reputation. I found out, and I kind of knew this, but I had it reinforced this weekend by a number of people when it came to the Jared Nielsen World of Game Design. But the weekend I spent interviewing people, I had people telling me, "Yeah, you were recommended." I go, "I was recommended." I was told that you were honest and fair, that you are even-handed, that you are good to your word.
Mm.
And I mean, I had initially told Don to tell Ken, "Hey, listen, I'll be off screen. I don't want any part of this. I'll just run the chat." And he was very insistent that I be part of this. Why is that? I'm going to make a public guess right now off the top of my head that Ken wanted to be able to show me and him on the same screen and said, "Hey, I was on 10 Car's live stream and I apologize to 10 Car, and all's good in the world now." And if I wasn't on the screen, then it wouldn't have had value. All right, only because I've been around longer than Don and Tom. By the way, if you watched any of their channels, you should. Tabletop Tap Room, Wizard Tower Games. We do the vlog of many things on Thursdays.
Mhm. Good stuff.
But the thing is, Ken is who he is. He exposed himself. Okay. We didn't have to put words in his mouth. I certainly shut him down a couple of times. I make no apologies for that.
Well, there was a few times where you guys asked him, what brings you here? Why are you here?
He wouldn't.
And he couldn't. I don't know that he wouldn't. I don't know that that's a wouldn't thing. He couldn't tell you. "Oh, I kind of don't know." He kind of
Yeah.
said it the third time around.
Right.
I think at first he was like, "Oh, to apologize, to do
That's
this,"
not. That's.
and
But
then
that's
he's like,
bullshit.
"I don't know." So he.
Listen, folks. Just so you also know, um, Jolly did not have an issue with us having Ken on.
Mhm.
He was surprised. He wasn't even sure if he was going to watch it. He was surprised. But we have a number of people who were like, "Why are you giving him a platform?" Well, first off, this is all due respect.
I think his plan backfired,
Yeah, I think it's kind of backfired.
but
But there's one thing that you can guarantee: if I'm going to do something and you come off and you direct me not to do it for no other reason than you're directing me not to do it, whether you're my parent, my boss, whatever, if I think I'm in the right, I'm going to just tell you to go F yourself. Maybe not to your face, but in my head. Because nobody likes to be told what to do by their friends, by their family, by whatever,
Mhm.
where the situation is you're not in my shoes. Now, did Ken get what he wanted? He might be able to manipulate into what he wanted, but he certainly didn't get what he wanted. Find out with a shove his apology. He again forgave me for being
but you
misguided.
never asked for that,
I
so
never wanted an
no.
apology because the fact is Ken can never make amends for the shit he pulled, at least in my eyes, for me and my community.
Hmm.
So until he starts doing with actions, his words mean nothing. And he's shown, like I pointed out, he's made no pencils in like 5, 6 years. If he wanted to make amends, he should have come on screen and go, look at this table. I did 1,000 pencils and they're going to be shipping. And you know what I might have said? Wow, Ken, maybe you've changed. But no, he didn't do that
And
because
told the truth, about what was going on.
yep,
You know, um, like Nigel was very clear about what happened with him.
yep,
Like this guy, you could say, "Oh, I went to the hospital because I had trouble with my memory, and there was no follow up."
no,
Like
no.
no, that doesn't happen.
Tammy, how? Let's see this one. How? Oh wait, the amends part. Yeah, okay. Tammy, he was in the system because he knows that he screwed you. Yeah.
Mm,
Tom, he's looking for legitimacy. Definitely.
yeah.
But the thing is, he is too deep. I told him his hole was too deep to dig out of. Flint is
Or he just needs to dig out of it correctly.
right. You can't dig out of your hole by
Y-
stepping on others.
yes, you can't step on others. You can't like
It's your own hole. You dug
you
it.
have
You
to
you got to
really
get out.
it's gooey. It's not a comfortable thing.
Flint, is there anything you uh forgot? I guess forgot to say or regret not saying.
Interesting question.
It's a very good question. There were a number of things that I after the fact you're like, well, you know what, I should have. But the thing is, if we had asked him more questions, we certainly could have. We
I
lost.
think it could have muddied the waters though.
It could have not only just muddy the waters,
Hmm.
it would have left him on the screen longer. And I'll be honest with you, much more time with Ken, I would have gone from stern, verging on asshole cop to uh, especially after the Barbara incident.
Yeah.
Um, I would have
Well, I
I
think
would have lost it.
at like a half an hour, 45 minutes, I think you guys were kind of done.
Yeah,
You guys were like, I think we all were
yeah.
very clear that this person is not here for what we think he is here
He was not
for.
here for
And
legitimate reasons.
yeah,
He had
and
an
then
agenda.
right, and he wasn't, or whatever. He just wasn't ready to do what we thought we understood he wanted to do there.
I knew what those that understood him going there for repentance or deceiving yourselves. Sorry, Wampler said it best. Go back to step one and start there.
Too right.
But here's the thing: Ken is like others. Shortcuts, shortcuts, shortcuts. And why do I got to go through? I'll take those steps. How about I just make them 4 steps? Because these steps, they don't apply to me
Can't we just
anyway.
shorten it? No.
You know, um, Don. The most disgusting thing is he owes Simply pencils. He has the machine, the pencils. He refuses as he is too lazy and far too vile and lazy. Yes, yes. Again,
Yeah.
it's the idea that I need a shortcut to get where I'm going, and you know.
I mean, shit, he could have had those kids make the pencils.
Oh my! Don't give him ideas. Don't.
That's so bad. I was just joking.
Yeah, but you know what? Even joking, Ken's probably writing this down.
No.
Get the kids. The kids that the state pays me $15 an hour. I pay them minimum wage. Let me get them to make the. Oh my God! She's a genius. Oh, I actually like I could have asked him. I fault myself for not being properly prepared. There was a woman that had really been taken advantage of out in Atlanta,
Oh.
and the two of us had spoken. She actually found me and reached out to me at the time.
Wow.
And she was doing Ken's wash. She was cooking for him.
Were they in a relationship?
I couldn't tell. It wasn't for me to ask,
Mm-hmm.
but I also got the feeling that he was had a room in her house, but she was promised that she was going to be part of the Atlanta film and movie industry, and Ken was not really using her. Don, Eric, wait, question: does he really even pay those kids? I doubt it. I don't know. I don't know, and I do know people that live in the area that I could probably have them make some inquiries. But honestly, so long as he stays out of my hobby, he's not a priority.
Right.
If he tries to, like he flexed with that Kickstarter he claims he's going to come back with, if Ken tries to come into my community, take advantage of my people, my community, my friends, my associates, uh, Ken's not going to be in a good spot. That's not a threat. It just means that I'm going to be on top of his BS, his bullshit.
Well, there's to every action there's a reaction.
Right. And I mean, Ken can continue taking advantage of people in the film industry. Uh, you know what? Honestly, I don't know many people in the film industry.
It's not your fight over there.
It's not my fight. If people in the film industry get taken advantage of and they need me for information, advice, my own records or whatever,
Right.
they're more than
Information to.
they're more than welcome to
Mm-hmm.
it. Tom, he claimed 15K in pencil stock and storage. Do we really think he's paying the store that much stock year in and year out?
Too right.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I gotta give my crew rewards. I know. I'm gonna make a #1 actor pencil. #1 actor. You're the #1 actor in this movie. Number one. You're the #1 director. #1 producer. You've got your award. You're gonna give out pencils. No, that's another flex. I think. I mean, 15K in pencils. 15K in pencils. I've got pencils. I have it on Bozer. I can't get off the shitter long enough to actually do some of this work. give me the fact of the matter is, all right. This is my opinion. Ken enjoys the movie and TV industry.
Mm.
It's his passion, and he's welcome to that passion. He enjoys making RPGs. And he's welcome to that passion. He hasn't really created an RPG product in well over a decade, and even the ones he were making was not really stuff. It was, pencil dice. So you can use it in prison. Um,
Oh wow.
Other people said that, not me. I'm just repeating what I read. But the thing is, Ken is active in the film industry now. I'm not saying he's successful, but he's active. If he tries to bring that activity to the RPG industry, whether it's on drive through or Kickstarter, I am sure that there are people who are going to make sure that his work is known and that he is known. And I think Ken, if nothing else, is smarter than that.
Mm.
And the reason why I say that is because he came on this channel, Don's channel, Tom's channel, with the idea that he was going to rehabilitate himself. And the fact that he sent Don his biography, his bibliography,
Well, yeah,
his
like basically a resume.
his resume, he wanted questions asked about that. Well, first off, dude, you don't just do an info dump 15 minutes before the show.
Yeah, no, that was weird.
So
That was really
he
weird.
was hoping, my opinion, and I only know this because I've seen it kind of work in law enforcement. He was hoping that the last minute information dump would be a distraction,
Mm.
and that we would be too busy looking at what he said.
Oh, phoning over like what he did in his movies or whatever.
Right. And, oh, you're doing that, and it
And
didn't
none of
go
us
there.
really care about any of that. So.
Right. He didn't want to give it
Mm.
to us early enough that we would research it. Wanted it
Yes.
late enough
Yes.
that you'd have to take it at its word, and we never used it.
No.
We never used it.
And why
This
bother if you
right.
hadn't been able to research it?
This was supposed to reinvent Ken. And the reason why it didn't work, and Ken, I will let you know this, all right? You fucked Jolly over twice.
Mm.
All right. The second time you fucked Jolly over, he really was pissed because he had to accept the idea that you were a changed man, that you had repented and you were no longer who you were. And then you were what? You were exactly who you were. So for you to try that game again 10 years later, do you think those of us in the know aren't taking that experience with them? Do you really think that? No, we certainly take it with us.
Yeah, and you reharmed him now
Yep.
and his
Tom,
wife.
and did he really buy 15K in pencils? You can buy them for 5 cents each. Do the math. 300,000 pencils to fulfill that Kickstarter. What
How
did
many
I?
people wanted that?
I don't know. Probably not that many pencils. But I assume that he got pencils with the idea that this was going to be a long-term business. But he needed somebody else to crank out the pencils, and Marcus wasn't going to crank out pencils for him. Marcus, I give Marcus credit for this. Marcus was like, Ken, here's pencils. Here is a pencil embosser. Get your ass out of trouble. Fulfill your debts. And Ken couldn't
Oh,
do
that
it.
was like, here's how to
And
fish, no fish.
now Ken, again, I'm pretty sure you're going to be watching this, so I'm going to say something heart to heart for you. Marcus put his reputation on the line for you.
Mm.
Okay? The man is now deceased. Why don't you put your reputation on the line for Marcus right now and make him see you as a success? Start fulfilling your Kickstarters. Take those pencils, crank them out, not for the backers, not for me or Tom or Don, not for the Blackburns, but for Marcus, the one man in this world who saw good in you and publicly
Mm.
proclaimed it. and would say, I don't care what Ken does or did, the man saved my life. And whatever you did to save his life, I don't need to know. Meant a lot to Marcus, and you can't even take the what legacy Marcus left you. And both are in pencils, and you can't even do
Wow.
that in his name
Mm,
at this point because he thought it was important enough to buy it for you, and
wow.
you don't even have the importance, the witherall, the insight to do anything with it. I feel sorry for Marcus, and I actually do mean that.
Mm.
So we've gone long, we've gone late. It's almost 9:30. I do appreciate you all being here. When there's stuff that I could have brought up the Marcus King stuff a bit
Yeah.
more. I could have brought up more details on the woman in Georgia, the all black phone company that he was their public relations for a while.
Oh,
Oh, Ken has a lot of weird stuff in his history, and you kind of scratch your
what
head.
happened with that situation?
I I don't know.
Black film
He
company.
was the only white individual out of like the seven pictures on it. It was a
Hmm.
film company for you know the black film community,
Hmm.
and you had Ken there. I'm assuming with the promise of helping them hit it big time.
Hmm.
I should have asked Ken about his experience as an actor. Oh, you want to know my one regret? My one regret was going, Ken, after you had your short gig on The Walking Dead, you tried to sell memorabilia from
Oh.
the Walking Dead franchise, and you had a certificate of authenticity that the authenticating company who was contacted stated that certificate was not authentic.
Oh no.
But we never got into that direction because we went right to his Kickstarters. That's one. Ken, you can reach out to me and tell me what happened with that. Again, I know you're watching. So that's one that didn't come up. That was real. That was on
That
par
we
with
missed out.
that. Well, that was on par with the federal crime, but that statute might be up on that one anyway. So, Ken, everybody else in the live stream, there you go. By the way, that was the one I really wish I had brought up. I knew there was one that was like in the back of my head. I was like, oh god damn it. Uh as always, be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. Uh Next weekend we are making a trip to Connecticut for a memorial service for James Carpio. If you want details, if you want to sign up for it, if you want an invite for it, it's on Facebook. James was a great member of this community. So hopefully I'll see a few of you there in Connecticut on Sunday. All right, folks.
Thanks so much for joining us. Take good care.